8 years ago this week, Soleiman Faqiri died after a violent struggle with correctional officers inside an Ontario prison, and his death was ruled a homicide in a coroner's inquest. Yet after all these years, the Faqiri family is still seeking justice. Soleiman's brother Yusuf joining us today to talk more about the family's fight to get justice, but as well as a vigil scheduled for this weekend. Yusuf, thank you so much for being with us here today.
Thank you for having me.
Your life was transformed forever because of Solly, your brother, Solly's death here, and you found yourself in a position not only of mourning for your brother's death, but this heavy burden on you, A, to get justice, but B, you're trying to change a system here. Tell us a little bit about that.
When Solly passed away, or when he was killed 8 years ago, as a family, our intention was not to fight the system, but to get to the truth and to seek justice. We achieved that truth last year in the coroner's inquest that ruled his death a homicide. But we are now in a position where government refuses to give us that justice. And we're forced, not just for Soleiman, we're not here to memorialize Soleiman Faqiri, but his death for us is a turning point for asking for catalyst, his death being a catalyst for transformational change. Because Solly's death shown us that we need to fight for people suffering from mental health challenges within the incarceration and the healthcare system.
And you brought up this inquest here and the inquiry. It's been 1 year since recommendations have been put forward, a total of 57. 6 months after those recommendations came out, you marched to Queen's Park, hoping to meet with members of the Ford government to speak about these recommendations here. We chatted 6 months ago. You were extremely frustrated. I'm asking you, 1 year since the inquest, what progress do you think has been made when it comes to those recommendations?
Our progress in getting those recommendations is not dependent on a government refusing to apologize to my family or ignoring Soleiman's tragic death or other deaths, but it is on our story continuing on this trajectory that we're going to continue to fight with other families, the Faqiri family and other families across the province, to tell the government that you need to make these changes, because this isn't a policy issue. This is a life and death. Since Solly's inquest, there has been more than a dozen deaths in corrections, people with suffering from mental health challenges, and when you look at those inquest recommendations, it was an opportunity for the government to stand on the right side of history, to transform corrections. Yet here we are, a year later, almost a year to the day of the homicide verdict, yet none of the recommendations have been implemented in Soleiman's inquest.
Do you have any hope that at some point, perhaps, that these recommendations will be acted upon?
My hope lies with my fellow Ontarians and fellow Canadians. The hope lies in that, and that's where the motivation is to prevent another tragedy. We're going to keep pushing government, and we're going to keep pushing this government or any government that refuses to acknowledge the importance of people suffering from mental health challenges. These recommendations need to be implemented, and they need to be implemented. It is to prevent another tragic death like Soleiman's. So if the government continues to ignore my family, we're going to continue to fight. We're going to continue to push, and our pushback is going to be based on building that foundation to be a voice for vulnerable Canadians, because this has to stop. How many more deaths do we need for people to say enough is enough? These are fathers, mothers, brothers, and sisters, and this is where we need to continue to fight.
And this fight, this message is also going to be a part of a vigil that you're holding this weekend for Soleiman. I always love to, when I speak with you, I always love to hear about Soleiman some more. This was somebody who was extremely dear to you. And what is your message this weekend? What are you hoping happens as this vigil gets underway?
Soleiman was a gifted mind. He was my dear brother. I love him. I didn't say I loved him. I love him. This vigil isn't just about him. Our movement has shifted to being a voice for other families. We're not interested to memorialize Soleiman, but we want to use his tragic story to give a voice for others. We have politicians, leaders, experts, other families that are here to speak on this vigil to mark the 8-year anniversary, for it to be a movement for change, for it to be a movement for compassion, for empathy, for people that are suffering from mental health challenges. And Solly, goes back to who Solly's personality was. He was a compassionate man, a gifted mind, who made my family happy, made us laugh. And this is what this vigil we're hoping to achieve. And we're hoping to use this being his legacy, because I didn't want his death to be the final part of his life. Solly was more than those 11 days, and he was more than the final moments of his life.
Tell me about what time this vigil is taking place. How can members of the public participate?
Yeah, everybody's welcome. This will be a virtual vigil this year. It will be at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. They can go to our Justice for Soli page via our social media and our website, and they could go and link it to the vigil at 6 p.m. as we'll have many speakers from across the nation talking about their own experience and leaders that have been in this space.
Final question for you. You talk about how this vigil is a call to action. Are you hoping that one day maybe you will be in a position to no longer have to have these public vigils with these very public calls?
That's what I want. I don't want to fight. I don't want to have these conversations. I want to be able to, have people with mental health challenges to live in peace. I don't want to be continuing to push back. All I want is someone like Soleiman to be able to be heard and to be not treated, to be not given to his family like in a body bag, or the Ashley Smiths, or the Pierre Corleon, or the Justin Saint-Amours, or the Cass Gettys. I want them to be loved and treated with dignity and respect. But we have to fight. We have no choice. I wish I didn't have to. We have to fight because this is for the soul of our country and our province. And Soli's life matter. And anyone else who suffer from mental health challenges within the correctional system and the justice system, their lives matter. They don't deserve to be given a body bag. They deserve treatment and respect and humanity.
It's painful to speak about your brother and have these conversations, but I know you do it because you want to see a greater good.
Absolutely.
Okay, Yusuf, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.